Who do you think you are looking at me like that? Waitress Roy's sharp voice cut through the rain's patter on Daisy's bruised tin roof, a blade in the quiet. Clara Bennett, 38 froze, coffee pot trembling, her chest tightening under Roy's scornful stare. The Chicago diner's flickering yellow lights glinted off her stained apron, the air heavy with roasted coffee and toasted bread. Customers ducked their heads, but their snickers sliced Clara's heart, each laugh a reminder of her place. She'd endured insults before, but tonight, a premonition sharp and cold made her pulse race, her breath shallow with dread, her stomach twisted, fearing Roy's next blow. Images flashed like lightning, a tall man in a fine coat, kneeling before the diner, voice breaking. I was wrong. Clara, a 12-year-old boy, his smile a mirror of the man's asking Mom, who is he? A folded paper, scrawled with 2012's handwriting, torn in the rain. Clara, in the storm, shouting, you have no right to know the boy. These fragments, vivid and jagged, hung like fate's whispers. Darkness swallowed them, and the diner's hum returned. Rain blurred the neon sign outside. Clara moved between tables, dark brown hair tied high, strands clinging to pale cheeks damp with sweat. Her gray eyes, shadowed by sleepless nights, hid pain behind a practiced smile. 18 years here, from a 20-year-old dreaming of novels to a single mother, had forged her resilience. Her fingers brushed a folded paper in her apron, a 2012 promise she kept like a scar, its weight heavier tonight. Roy's smirk lingered, a taunt that churned her quiet rage. The door's bell jingled. James Harper, 42, stepped in, wool coat soaked, leather shoes muddied. Tall and lean, his green eyes weary. He scanned the room, expecting a warm greeting like at upscale restaurants. Behind him, Ava, 17, his adopted daughter, muttered Dad. This place is awful. Her blonde hair peeked from a hoodie, her scowl softening as she noticed Clara's tense frame. James forced a smile. Just a quick meal, Ava. GPS died. Clara knew him instantly. James Harper, the man she loved in 2012 who left her with a vow under streetlights. Now a billionaire, an AI mogul from Silicon Valley, no longer the shy student with a crooked grin. Her heart pounded, a mix of longing and anger, her fingers tightening on the coffee pot. She approached, voice cold as ice, fresh coffee. She placed a folded paper by his cup, eyes locked on his, her breath hitching. I've waited since 2012. James's eyes widened, the rain's drone fading. Roy sneered again. Hey, you'd a flirting with the VIP, get to work. Laughter stung, sharp as knives. Clara's grip on the pot tightened, her glance at James a challenge, not hope. Her chest ached, braced for another jab from Roy. But James watched, silent, his stillness a deeper wound. Ava frowned, sensing the cruelty, her fingers pausing on her phone. Clara's heart screamed, the paper in her pocket a burning reminder of broken promises. The diner's lights flickered, hinting at a secret ready to unravel. The rain outside Daisy's brew hadn't let up, its steady drum on the tin roof a restless heartbeat in the dim-lit diner. Clara Bennett moved through the familiar rhythm of her shift, refilling coffee cups, clearing plates, her practiced smile a shield against the world. The air was thick with the scent of burnt toast and stale cigarette smoke, clinging to the coats of truckers hunched over the counter. The jazz radio crackled, a saxophone solo weaving through the clink of forks and low murmurs. Clara, 38, was a fixture here, as much a part of the place as the scratched wooden tables or the Polaroids curling on the walls. But beneath her steady hands and quiet efficiency, a storm churned one that had been brewing since 2012. 18 years ago, Clara was someone else. At 20, she was a literature student at a Chicago community college, her backpack stuffed with dog-eared copies of Toni Morrison and Sylvia Plath. Her eyes, then bright with dreams of writing novels, sparkled under the fluorescent lights of a dive bar where she waitressed to pay tuition. That summer of 2012, the world felt infinite. The Chicago air was heavy with heat, the streets alive with festival laughter and the hum of cicadas. Clara wore her hair loose, her laugh unguarded, and her heart open. That's when she met James Harper. He was 29, a wiry computer science student from a nowhere town in Illinois, scraping by on scholarships and odd jobs. His green eyes held a hunger for something bigger, something beyond the rusted fences of his childhood. They met on a humid July night, Clara spilling beer on his sneakers during a crowded shift. His laugh, sharp and warm, cut through her embarrassment. "You owe me a drink for that," he teased. And she did one that turned into hours of talking over cheap whiskey and a jukebox playing Springsteen. For 10 weeks, they were inseparable. They shared late-night walks along Lake Michigan, her head on his shoulder as they whispered plans for a future they couldn't afford. He'd code the next big app. She'd write stories that changed the world. Under a flickering streetlight on August 12, 2012, James scrawled a promise on a bar napkin. "We'll find each other, no matter what." Clara tucked it into her pocket, believing it was forever. But forever was a lie. James left for Silicon Valley the next day, chasing a startup dream. "I'll call," he said, kissing her forehead. She waited. Days turned to weeks. His phone went dead. Emails bounced. Clara, proud and stubborn, refused to chase a ghost. Then came the nausea, the missed periods, the test with 2 pink lines. She was pregnant. Alone in her cramped apartment, the radiator hissing, she made a choice. She'd raise the child herself. Ethan was born in April 2013, a quiet boy with his father's green eyes and crooked smile. Clara dropped out of college, took over Daisy's brew when the old owner retired, and poured her life into her son. Ethan, now 12, was her anchor, his small hands steady as he chopped onions in the diner's kitchen, dreaming of becoming a chef. Love, Clara decided, was a luxury she couldn't afford. She never dated, never let anyone close. The napkin from 2012 stayed in her apron, a ritual she couldn't explain. Each August 12th, she'd unfold it, trace James's messy handwriting, and wonder if he'd forgotten her. The diner's regulars knew her as tough, unyielding, but they didn't see the cracks the way her jaw tightened when a customer mentioned Silicon Valley, or how her fingers lingered on the napkin when the radio played Springsteen. Tonight, James Harper sat in her diner, a stranger in a tailored coat, his daughter Ava complaining about the lack of Wi-Fi. Clara's heart twisted as she watched him from behind the counter, pouring coffee with mechanical precision. He was no longer the boy who'd kissed her under streetlights. Success had sharpened him, hardened him. Yet his eyes, scanning the menu, held a flicker of the man she'd loved. Did he remember? Did he know about Ethan? The middle-aged man from earlier, his vest crumpled, called out again. "Hey, sweetheart, my eggs are cold. You gonna do your job or just stare at the rich guy?" The words stung, but Clara's face stayed blank. She crossed the room, replaced his plate, and felt the weight of every eye in the diner. James looked up, his gaze lingering too long, and for a moment, she thought he might speak. He didn't. The napkin in her pocket felt heavier, its promise a taunt. As she turned away, Ethan poked his head out from the kitchen, his apron too big for his skinny frame. "Mom, can I make the pie tonight?" he asked, oblivious to the tension. Clara's breath caught. Those green eyes, that smile, they were James's. And James was watching. Clara Bennett wiped a table, her cloth snagging on a splinter, her gray eyes flicking to James Harper's booth. The diner's lights buzzed, shadows dancing across her stained apron. The sharp scent of greasy bacon clung to her skin, a reminder of endless shifts. James sipped coffee, his tailored coat over the chair, while Ava, 17, watched Clara with a frown, earbuds loose, sensing the tense air. Clara's chest tightened, the chasm between James's wealth and her struggle a silent wound. Roy, in a crumpled vest, waved his empty mug from the counter. "Clara, you def fill this up." His voice dripped entitlement, turning heads. Clara approached, coffee pot steady, her face a mask. "Coming, Roy," she said, pouring into the chipped mug. Roy's eyes narrowed, raking her tired frame. "You act too good for this dive," he said, smirking at the truckers. "Always waiting for something better. Newsflash, this is your life." The words struck like a slap. Truckers chuckled, their laughter cruel. Clara's jaw clenched, her gaze on the steaming coffee, her heart stinging. 18 years of insults had hardened her, but with James watching, The shame burned deeper. She willed him to speak, to be the 2012 boy who'd have deflected Roy's jab. He didn't. Ava's chest tightened, hating Roy's cruelty. Her lips pursed as she glanced at Clara. Roy grinned, leaning back. "What's the attitude dreaming that fancy guy'll whisk you away?" He nodded at James, voice mocking. "Wake up, my tilibum, sweetheart. His kind don't slum it with girls like you." A trucker slapped the counter, laughing. Clara's fingers gripped the pot, heat searing her palm, her pulse roaring. She forced a tight smile, voice low. "Anything else, Roy?" He waved her off, dismissing her like dust. Ava's frown deepened, her fingers clenching, holding back words. Clara moved to James's booth, clearing plates, steps measured. Ava met her eyes, a flicker of sympathy, but stayed quiet. James's gaze was unreadable, his silence heavier than Roy's taunts. The napkin in Clara's apron, its 2012 promise. "We'll find each other," felt like a cruel jest. She stacked plates, ceramic clinking, hands steady despite the fury inside. Roy's words echoed, her cheeks burning, her heart cursing James's inaction. Ethan, 12, emerged from the kitchen, apron loose. "Mom, soup's ready," he called, green eyes bright with pride. Clara's heart lurched. She glanced at James, who stared at Ethan. Fork paused. Did he see the resemblance, the smile, the tilt of the head? She wanted to shield Ethan, but he wiped his hand, unaware. His innocence clawed at her. A reminder of 13 years of protection. Roy's voice cut through. "Kid, tell your mom to hustle. She's mooning over Prince Charming." He pointed at James, grinning. Ethan frowned, confused. Clara's face burned, hands trembling as she set down the coffee pot. She looked at James, waiting for a flicker of the man she'd known, her breath shallow with anger. His eyes met hers, then fell. Ava's jaw tightened, her discomfort clear. The diner's walls closed in, and Clara knew the boy from 2012 was gone, and this man might never stand up for her. The air in Daisy's brew was thick, a held breath before a storm. The drizzle outside softened, but inside, the diner felt stifled, the faint scent of spilled syrup on Clara Bennett's hands as she wiped the counter. Her calloused fingers moved slowly, anchoring her against the chaos within. The lights flickered, her shadow wavering like a ghost. Clara, 38, hid her pain well, but with James Harper nearby, her heart was a clenched fist, her breath heavy with fear. She avoided his booth, eyes on a chipped mug, a smudged menu, anything but him. James sat, his coat stark against the vinyl, fingers tapping as Ava spoke about school. Clara felt his gaze, heavy but wouldn't meet it. Roy's insults lingered, but James's silence cut deeper. The man who'd promised her in 2012 had watched her shame without a word. It wrapped her in rage, her chest aching with 13 years alone. The diner's sounds, forks scraping, ice clinking, were muffled to Clara. Her world was the napkin's heat in her apron, its 2012 promise a bitter taunt. She poured coffee for a couple, her breath hitching when Roy muttered, "She's got that look, too good for us." His buddy, a trucker, added, "Thinks she'll trade up to that rich guy." The words pierced her. An older woman leaned over, voice pitying, "That boy of yours deserves better than this dump." Clara. Her lips quivered, stung by the pity, her throat tightening. She gripped the counter, knuckles white. James's presence pressed against her. She sensed him watching, head tilted, puzzling her out. Did he see her, or a ghost of his past? Her fingers brushed the napkin, feet aching, pulse heavy. She wouldn't hope again, but fear gnawed fear. He'd see Ethan's face and know. Ethan's voice broke through. "Mom, pie's almost done," he called from the kitchen, his 12-year-old frame flushed. Clara forced a smile. "Good job, my kiddo. Keep an eye on it." Ethan nodded, unaware. His green eyes, James's eyes, twisted her heart, her fear spiking that the secret was slipping. The trucker's voice rose. "Kid's the only thing she's got. Pity he's stuck here." Clara's shoulders stiffened, scrubbing a non-existent stain, breath shallow, fighting tears. The regulars watched, waiting for her to break. "She wouldn't..." James shifted, chair creaking. Clara glanced, catching his green eyes. He frowned, fingers tightening on his cup, a flicker of unease, but said nothing. The gesture stirred her guilt, or recognition, but her jaw tightened, and she turned, stacking menus. The napkin burned, its words, "We'll find each other a trap." The lights flickered, and Clara felt alone, trapped between a past she couldn't erase and a present threatening to expose her. The clink of dishes in Daisy's brew was faint, the air thin, as if the diner held its breath. The sharp smell of cooling grease clung to Clara Bennett's hands as she polished a glass behind the counter. Her movements slow, her gray eyes swirling with fear and resolve. James Harper's presence, feet away, pressed against her ribs, her pulse quickening. She hadn't faced him since placing the napkin by his cup, but felt his every glance, her chest tight with dread. Clara's hands trembled, the glass cold against her palms. The napkin in her apron, its 2012 promise, pulsed like a heartbeat. She'd built walls for Ethan, but James's return cracked them, her heart racing with fear he'd see the truth. Roy, quieter now, nursed his coffee, his barbs echoing. Customers watched, sensing the tension coil. Clara's face was blank, but inside she unraveled, her breath shallow, dreading James's question. James sat with Ava, who picked at fries, earbuds loose, her eyes flicking to Clara with unease. She bit her lip, sensing the air's weight. James's coffee was untouched, the napkin unopened. His fingers hovered over it, hesitating, as if it held a truth he feared. Clara's breath caught, her heart lurching. Did he remember the boy who wrote those words? She turned, focusing on the glass. Her reflection, a woman on the edge, stomach churning with panic. Ethan stepped from the kitchen, lit by the oven's glow. "Mom, pie's ready," he said, wiping flour on his oversized apron. His green eyes shone, his crooked smile bright. Clara's heart stopped Ethan, a mirror of young James. She nodded, voice tight. "Looks good, kiddo. Bring it out." Ethan grinned, unaware, his innocence a knife in her chest. Ava glanced at Ethan, puzzled by his smile, her curiosity stirring. James's eyes locked on Ethan, fork stilled, knuckles white. Clara saw recognition flicker, her pulse roaring. He leaned forward, breath shallow, and spoke. "Clara," he whispered, "how old is he?" The question struck like a match, simple but explosive. Clara's hand froze, the rag slipping, her breath hitching. Her eyes met his, flashing to 2012's kisses, tainted by silence. The memory choked her, fear spiking that he'd know Ethan was his. She couldn't answer. She turned, grabbing napkins, hands shaking, knocking over a salt shaker. Grain spilled, mirroring her chaos. Roy smirked, but customers' murmurs faded. Ava leaned forward, biting her lip harder, voice sharp. "Dad, what's going on?" James's eyes stayed on Clara's back, brushing the napkin's edge, not unfolding it. Clara's spine stiffened, torn between screaming and shielding Ethan, her heart pounding with 13 years' weight. The lights buzzed, harsh on Clara's pale face. Ethan returned, setting a steaming pie on the counter. "Banana cream. Mom's favorite," he said, glancing at James's booth, smile unguarded. Clara's throat tightened, hands trembling as she gripped the counter. She saw James's question, knew the silence couldn't hold. The napkin, the boy they were converging, and she couldn't keep them apart, fear of vice around her heart. The tension in Daisy's brew was a taut wire, the faint scent of banana cream pie heavy. Clara Bennett gripped the sink's edge, cold metal biting her palms, her gray eyes burning with fear and fury. James Harper's question, "How old is he?" was a grenade, its pin pulled. Ethan, 12, sliced his pie at the counter, hands careful, proud, oblivious. The jukebox's trumpet clashed with plates, but Clara's pulse drowned it, her chest heaving with rage. James leaned forward, green eyes locked on her, searching. Ava, 17, tugged an earbud, face tight. "Dad, why are you acting weird?" she asked, voice sharp. James ignored her, reaching for the napkin by his cup. He unfolded it, breath catching at his 2012 handwriting. "We'll find each other, no matter what." His voice cut through, Clara, is he mine? Clara's control shattered. She slammed the coffee pot down, glass clanking, startling Roy and truckers. You don't get to ask that, she hissed, voice trembling. She stepped from the counter, closing on James's booth, hands shaking. 13 years, James. You think you can walk in and ask about my son? Her words were blades, slicing the calm. Regret flickered had she said too much anger surging from years of sleepless nights. James stood, chair scraping, hands raised. Clara, I didn't know I tried to find you. She cut him off, eyes blazing. Don't make excuses. Her voice cracked, tears brimming, heart torn between fury and lost love. Roy smirked, leaning back. But Clara's world was James, who'd left her with a napkin and nothing. Her chest ached, the weight of raising Ethan alone crushing her. Ava's eyes widened. Dad, what's she talking about? She demanded, rising. James glanced at her, face pale. Clara, please, talk to me, he said, pleading. Clara pointed, finger trembling. You left, built your billions while I scraped by, raising him alone. You don't get to care now. Her voice broke, regret mixing with rage she'd protected Ethan. But the truth was slipping. Ethan looked up, knife pausing. Mom, he called, voice small. Clara's heart lurched. She turned, softening, meeting his green eyes. James's eyes. It's okay, kiddo. Check the oven. Ethan hesitated, gazing at James, curiosity sparking. His heart raced, wondering about the stranger, a question forming. He nodded, retreating, but his glance lingered. Clara's shoulders sagged, fire returning, voice a fierce whisper. He's mine, James. You don't know him. Don't pretend you do. Pain flashed in her eyes, lost dreams flickering. James's jaw tightened, hands clenched. I didn't know, he said, voice breaking. If I'd known enough, Clara snapped, turning away. She grabbed a tray of dishes, plates rattling, hiding tears. Her chest heaved, regret gnawing had her outburst hurt Ethan. The diner was silent, eyes on her, Ava on James, him motionless. The napkin lay open, a raw wound. Clara felt its absence, her heart torn. She'd guarded Ethan for 13 years, but James's question and Ethan's curious glance threatened everything. The silence in Daisy's brew was deafening, a heavy shroud over the diner's worn tables and flickering lights. The air smelled of cooling pie and burnt coffee, the jukebox faint jazz tune unable to pierce the tension. Clara Bennett stood behind the counter, her hands braced against the edge, knuckles white. Her gray eyes, raw from unshed tears, stared at the floor, avoiding James Harper's gaze. His question about Ethan is he mine had shattered her defenses, and her outburst had left the diner stunned. The regulars, Roy included, watched with bated breath, their usual chatter replaced by an uneasy hush. James stood by his booth, his tailored coat askew, the open napkin with his 2012 promise lying like an accusation on the table. Clara's chest heaved, each breath a struggle to hold herself together. She'd spent 13 years building a life for Ethan, shielding him from the pain of an absent father. But James was here now, his green eyes searching her face, and the truth she'd guarded felt like a weight she could no longer carry. Ava, his 17-year-old daughter, sat frozen, her phone forgotten, her wide eyes darting between her father and Clara. Dad, what's happening? She whispered, but James didn't answer. His focus was on Clara, on the woman he'd left behind and the boy who might be his son. Clara's fingers brushed the empty pocket of her apron, the napkin no longer there, but its words etched in her mind. We'll find each other, no matter what. She'd clung to that promise, not out of hope, but as a reminder of her own strength. She'd raised Ethan alone, turned Daisy's brew into a home, taught her son to dream despite their struggles. That was her power, hidden beneath the stained apron and tired smile, a love fierce enough to endure 13 years of silence. But now, with James standing before her, she had to decide keep the truth buried or let it breathe. James took a step toward her, his voice low, almost pleading. Clara, I need to know, is Ethan my son? The question was softer this time, but it hit harder, cracking the last of her resolve. Clara's head snapped up, her eyes meeting his, and for a moment, the diner vanished. She saw the boy from 2012, the one who'd kissed her under streetlights, and the man he'd become, a stranger with the same green eyes. Her lips trembled, and she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, he's yours. The words landed like a thunderclap. James's face crumpled, his breath hitching as he stumbled back, catching himself on the booth. Ava gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Roy and the truckers exchanged glances, their smirks gone, replaced by something like awe. Clara's hands shook, but she stood taller, her voice steadying. I didn't tell you because you were gone, James. No call, no letters. I wasn't going to beg a ghost to care. Ethan deserved better than that. James's eyes filled with tears, his voice breaking. I didn't know, Clara. I was broke, sleeping on couches, coding day and night. I tried to find you, but you were gone, no number, no address. He paused, his gaze dropping to the napkin. I never stopped thinking about you. Clara's throat tightened, but she shook her head, her voice firm. Thinking isn't enough. I built a life for him. Every late night, every double shift. Every time I cried myself to sleep, it was for Ethan. You don't get to claim him just because you're here now. Ethan stepped out of the kitchen, his apron dusted with flour, his green eyes wide with confusion. Mom, what's wrong? He asked, his voice cutting through the diner's stillness. Clara's heart lurched. She crossed to him, kneeling to meet his gaze, her hands gentle on his shoulders. Nothing's wrong, kiddo, she said, forcing a smile. Just talking to an old friend. But her eyes flicked to James, and she saw the recognition in his face, the freckles, the smile, the way Ethan tilted his head. It was undeniable. James took a shaky step forward, his voice thick. Clara, I'm sorry. I should have come back. Let me make this right. Clara stood shielding Ethan, her eyes fierce. This isn't about you, James. It's about him. She paused, her voice softening. But he deserves to know who you are. The diner's lights buzzed, casting a warm glow on Ethan's curious face. Clara's power, her love, her sacrifice had kept them whole. But now, it was pulling James back into their lives, whether she was ready or not. Hope flickered in Daisy's brew. Clara Bennett's confession, he's yours, settling like dust. The lights buzzed, warming the worn tables. The scent of banana cream pie lingered, a reminder of the night's unraveling. Clara stood by Ethan, hand on his shoulder, gray eyes on James Harper, heart pounding with cautious hope. His face, raw with guilt, mapped a man facing his past. Roy and regulars sat silent, smirks gone. The jukebox's jazz wove through the quiet, soft as a whisper. James took a shaky breath, coat loose. He stepped forward, eyes on Clara. I need to say something, he said, voice carrying. He turned, glaring at Roy and truckers. I watched you treat her like nothing. I let it happen. I was wrong. His words rippled, steady. Roy shifted, face reddening, muttering under his breath, avoiding Clara's gaze, bravado crumbling. James faced Clara, voice breaking. Clara, I'm sorry. I left in 2012 chasing a dream, thinking I'd return. I didn't know about Ethan, but that's no excuse. I should have fought to find you. Tears brimmed in his green eyes, hands trembling. You gave him a good life. I've no right to step in, but I want to try if you'll let me. The diner was still, Roy's mug frozen, regular's eyes wide. Clara's jaw tightened, gripping Ethan's shoulder, chest tight with years of pain. Ethan, 12 looked up. Mom, is he really? Clara knelt, smiling softly, voice steady despite the ache. He's your dad, Ethan. Once my friend. She stood, eyes on James, forgiveness flickering. Ava, in the booth, pulled her earbuds, face soft. Dad, you messed up big, she said, honest but kind, eyes warm with understanding. James nodded, a tear falling. I did. Ava, I'm here now. He turned, voice rising. Clara's stronger than us all. She raised a kind kid with dreams. Where people like you, he pointed at Roy, who flinched, tear her down. You don't know her strength. Roy looked away, muttering, face burning, "Shame clear." A trucker nodded, shamed by James's words. His head bowed. Clara's throat tightened, eyes glistening. She hadn't expected this stand, this voice after years enduring alone. Her heart softened, 2012's weightlifting slightly. She stepped forward. "It's not about fixing things, James. It's Ethan. Be here for him every day." Her voice firm, hope flickered. James nodded. "I will. I promise." Ethan tugged Clara's apron, green eyes curious. "Can he try my pie?" Clara laughed, sunlight breaking through, chest lighter. "Sure. Um, Kiddo." She gestured to James and Ava. "Sit at the counter. None of your remember one, shorty cannot one." Ethan's pie's Chicago's best. James and Ava moved, Ava nudging Ethan. "If it's good, I'm back," she grinned, warmth easing the air. Ethan beamed, shy but proud, glancing at James with cautious interest. Regulars murmured, softer, some nodding at Clara. Roy slipped out, head down, muttering excuses, leaving a crumpled bill. The lights held steady, glowing warmly. Clara watched James taste Ethan's pie, his smile like his son's, a shift stirring not love, but possibility. The napkin's promise was gone, but a new one began, her heart daring to believe just a little. Morning sun bathed Daisy's brew, its golden light softening the counter. The scent of fresh coffee warmed the air, a gentle shift from last night's storm. The jukebox's soft jazz wove through clinking mugs and murmurs. Clara Bennett, apron clean, stood behind the counter, gray eyes reflecting the glow. Softer now. Her heart felt lighter. The diner less a battleground, more a home, scars fading under the new day's warmth. Her heart stirred, daring to dream again. Clara watched Ethan in a booth, his 12-year-old hands teaching Ava to fold a paper crane. Ava, 17, laughed, blonde hair catching light, guardedness gone. "You're awful at this," Ethan teased. Green eyes, James's eyes, mischievous. Ava nudged him. "Says the toast burner. Juanishas her and did us run, hunty." She helped him cut a pie slice. Their giggles a melody Clara hadn't heard in years, easing her ache. James, in a borrowed flannel, sipped coffee, smile mirroring Ethan's. Tentative but real. He glanced at Ethan, quiet pride in his eyes, a bond forming. Last night changed everything. James's apology, his praise of Clara's strength, silenced regulars' taunts. Roy hadn't returned, but a trucker, once Roy's ally, called Clara. Ethan still baking that pie. His nod held respect, tone warm, a shift that warmed her heart. Another regular left a bigger tip, murmuring, "You're doing good, Clara." She hadn't forgiven James fully, but his vow to stay for Ethan opened a door. The napkin will find each other was gone, her focus on the future, chest light with hope. James caught her eye. "This pie's incredible," he said, nodding at his plate. "Ethan's got talent." Clara smiled, voice proud. "He gets it from me." James chuckled, a flicker of 2012's warmth, eyes lingering with respect. Ethan leaned over, showing James the crane. "Want to try?" he asked, shy but curious. James nodded, fingers clumsy but earnest, earning Ethan's grin. Clara's heart swelled, seeing her son open up, daring to connect. Clara poured coffee, hands steady. She'd protected Ethan for 13 years, shielding him from judgment. Seeing him laugh with Ava, glancing at James curiously, she felt the weight lift. Ethan deserved a father, Ava, a brother. Clara wasn't ready to trust James fully, but she'd let him try, her heart warming to possibility. The diner was hers, a place of survival, now of mending, its warmth a promise of new beginnings. The door's bell jingled, a regular waving. Clara nodded, smile lingering, chest light. James joined her at the counter, voice low. "I'm here for him, Clara. For you, if you'll have me." She nodded, eyes searching his. One day at a time, Ethan called, "Mom, pancakes tonight," his voice bright. Clara turned, heart full. "Yeah, kiddo. Perfect." She glanced at James. Ava, Ethan, feeling possibility. The jazz faded, and Daisy's brew glowed, a testament to a promise kept, not in words, in sort of presence. Thanks for joining Unveiled Wealth. If this story touched you, like, comment, and subscribe for more tales of resilience and hope.